Welcome back, everyone, to Tip of the Spear with your very own Missoula County Commissioners. I'm Dave Strohmaier. I'm joined by Commissioner Vero today. Commissioner Slotnick is unable to join us for this edition of the show. We are also joined and pleased to have with us Detective Captain David Conway from the Missoula County Sheriff's Office and Lyndayle Mattis, Pathways Program Manager at the YWCA. Before we get rolling, I want to welcome Commissioner Vero as the new chair of the Missoula Board of County Commissioners. For folks listening out there, a bit of trivia. We rotate the chair position between the three commissioners, so every year there's a new chair. So in our 6-year terms, each commissioner will serve twice as chair. I'm not sure which type of furniture I am now relegated to assuming, but welcome, Chair Vero.
Thank you.
So today we're going to talk about a pretty serious topic here in the state of Montana and our community and across the nation, and that is human trafficking. And this is a little bit more, I don't know how to say it, certainly a weightier topic than some of our recent topics on Tip of the Spear, but nonetheless, it's something that we as Missoula County government and the Missoula community are wrestling with. And to set up the conversation, I guess Captain Conway or Lyndayle, you just want to talk a little bit about who you are and who you represent here today. Captain Conway?
My name is Dave Conway. I'm the Captain of Detectives for the Sheriff's Office. I've been here with Missoula County Sheriff's Office since 1997 in one capacity or another. For the last 6 years, I've been the Captain of Detectives, leading a group of a dozen or so detectives, investigating all the crimes and criminal activity that occur within Missoula County. One of those that we heavily focus on and are continually striving to work towards is this area of human trafficking or child exploitation.
Thanks.
And Lyndayle, introduce yourself and tell us about Pathways and your work.
Thank you. My name is Lyndayle Mattis. I'm the Pathways Program Manager at the YWCA, and I've been there since 2016. So the Pathways Program for the YWCA serves survivors of domestic and sexual violence and also human trafficking. We have a 24-hour domestic violence shelter as well as a crisis line and a walk-in center. And then we have many other services that we offer in our new Meadowlark building.
Which is amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah. So January 11th is National Human Trafficking Awareness Day. So the entire month of January is dedicated to awareness and prevention. It's a big national issue. So locally, what does human trafficking look like for us here in Missoula County, and what efforts are in place to address it?
So I can really talk about what I see, and of course I'm looking through the lens of the Pathways program at the YWCA, so I'm not really very educated on community-wide, but I do know what we see, and I can share some statistics. So just for the year of 2021, we served 32 survivors that identified human trafficking or sex trafficking as part of their victimization. And we also worked with 8 different professionals in our community to kind of collaborate.
Human trafficking and sex trafficking, are those synonymous, or are there other types of trafficking besides sex trafficking that you guys are working with?
Human trafficking is more like labor traffic, and then sex trafficking is sex trafficking.
So what kind of labor trafficking happens here in Missoula County?
I wouldn't say that we've ran across labor trafficking per se here in Missoula County. Most of what we see is sex trafficking.
Okay. Thanks. Sorry to interrupt. Keep going.
No, that's okay. So a lot of what we do is we just serve people through our shelter or our crisis line who have identified as a sex trafficking survivor, or we collaborate with other agencies to really fulfill whatever resources or help financially or materialistic that we can to support these survivors in getting where they need to go.
Dave?
Yeah, human trafficking is a difficult and complex topic to talk about, and it can take many different forms. What we see a lot of that wouldn't have traditionally been thought of as sex trafficking is relationship trafficking, where, for example, a boyfriend convinces a girlfriend to engage in sex for exchange for drugs or for money. That's still, by definition, human trafficking, and still cases that we actively work. It doesn't necessarily have to be the stereotypical pimp in a gold Cadillac like you see on TV for it to be a real problem and a real crime that we're facing in this community.
So, what are some of the common warning signs that people and parents can be aware of, or where do you want the kind of the lay citizen? How do you start to think about this, look at it, be aware of what's happening in our community?
I think with the advent of social media and the amount of time that people spend on it, especially younger adults or kids, it has really increased their vulnerability or their ability to be predated upon. So,
can you tell a story? Like, what's your classic example?
So we've been seeing this a lot. So since the early part of this summer, we've partnered with the FBI out of their Salt Lake Human Trafficking Division to do more proactive stings. And we've done about a dozen cases since early summer, arresting guys, really bad guys, who are finding kids on the internet and exploiting them and getting them to meet with them. So the problem is kids have access to social media, and they're living out their lives on social media much more than all of us did when we were young adults, kids. So that creates more of an opportunity for these predators to be able to find them, as well as it creates an opportunity for the predators to do this behind a computer screen with anonymity. It's difficult for a middle-aged guy to walk up to a teenager in the mall or in a park and strike up a conversation, but not so on the internet. And so it creates much more opportunity, and they can do it at a much more rapid pace.
Well, I guess speaking of the internet and just the, opportunities it opens up for folks to do bad things, and for conversely, especially kids, to be in a vulnerable place and to be taken advantage of and preyed upon. Talk a little bit about the Earn It Act. This is something, a piece of federal legislation, proposed legislation that the Board of County Commissioners here, yourself, Dave, and others asked our U.S. senators here in Montana to get behind as a means to hold internet companies more accountable for what they are allowing to be placed on their platforms. What is the Earn It Act? What advantage does it bring to helping really make a dent in the bad things you all are seeing?
So there's some certain apps that really cater towards this type of activity. I'll use, for example, the previous Backpage that was out. That has since been shut down through legislation and then through court hearings. But, for example, it really provided a platform that was much easier and much more accessible, and clearly was designed just for these type of events. This act would make it much simpler for the government, in essence, to shut down those apps that are really detailing for this type of activity.
Have you gotten any update as far as where that is at in Congress right now, and the likelihood of this thing getting over the finish line?
You know, I don't know where it's at exactly in legislation at this point. It's a tough uphill battle. The thing that people always hang their hat on is the First Amendment right and the right to free speech, and the government's stepping on that. So it's a fine balance to protect people and also protect their rights.
Right.
So can we go back and warning signs again? Because I'm also thinking about online, not just apps, but even, you can be on a website that's selling tractor tires, and you scroll through the comments, and then, oh my gosh, you get to someone who's trying to, it's essentially traffic or illicit, illegal activity, if you're like reading down through the comments. So how do you even begin to monitor that or catch that? Or
as a parent, is that what you're asking?
As a parent, as a professional, as a community member, what should we be doing?
Well, that's a couple questions. I'll start with as a parent, I think it's important that parents be involved in their kids' life. And the problem is kids are smart and they know how to use technology often much better than we do as their parents. And I think most parents recognize that, and they realize that they need to monitor their kids' social media accounts. The problem is that it's very difficult to monitor a social media account that you don't know exists. It's easy for you to be able to go onto, let's say, your kid's Facebook and see who they're chatting with and who they're talking to, but it's also easy for your kid to create another Facebook account that you don't know about, or another Kik account, or another account on one of these more nefarious sites, and not under their name, but under an assumed name, even maybe posing as an adult. So not only is it important to monitor their accounts, to know what they all are, to know how to access them and monitor them, but also to monitor their physical devices, monitor the phone itself or the laptop or whatever device it is they're using to see what accounts they have.
And
That is tough.
How do your kids respond to that?
Yep. My kids do not respond at all to that. It's
Yep.
I mean, it's partially just, speaking as a parent, instilling in your kids, whether it's social media or just talking to someone on the street. I mean, I grew up in an era where the sort of warning you got is don't talk to strangers, don't take candy from strangers, this sort of thing. Well, how do you transfer that into the 21st century and just instill in kids a sense of situational awareness, and that someone who might be appearing, whether it's in the flesh or virtually as a friend, and if you don't know the person, be wary of that. But yeah, it's tough when kids have phones, they have computers. It's difficult to know what all accounts they have at times.
So, Lyndayle, kind of what are the stories that you hear, or like how does this begin? Like, how does a survivor end up in this situation?
Yeah, so I think that goes back to what Conway said earlier about its relationship. So what we're seeing is like survivors are doing things for their partner that they wouldn't normally do, for like drugs or to please the partner, or maybe they're like houseless, so they're needing money for a hotel room, so they're just putting themselves in a situation that they wouldn't normally do, which could be trading like sex for money. We hear a lot of that, and then we hear survivors telling us stories that they don't even recognize what it is that they're doing until we kind of talk to them and kind of educate them a little bit about what sex trafficking looks like, and that really without knowing, like, that is what they're involved in and that is what they're being asked to do.
So how do we have these conversations with our kids who are at an age when, you're becoming sexually active and dealing with hormones and dealing with trying to be independent and learn about yourself and who you are and experiment? Like, what can we do?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it comes back to, be involved in your kid's life, know what they're doing, and just have the tough conversations and really name like what it is and what predators do, and have that open communication with your child, so that way hopefully they'll make the right decision and smart choices and come to you when somebody approaches them or something feels uncomfortable on the internet, or if they're getting, like, there's a lot of red flags on like too much praise, or somebody giving you all these compliments or trying to buy you all these expensive things, and like really just paying attention to what your children are doing and who they're engaging with. I know it, like, monitoring their social media and their phones seems almost impossible, but I think just remembering that, like, they're so vulnerable, especially teenagers who, I know for my children, they feel like they know it all at teenage years, right? So just making sure that they know that this is out there and it's in our community and it's scary, and just to, like, that I'm a safe person, that you can talk to me about anything.
Once you start to think about this or talk about this, it becomes surprisingly, disturbingly pervasive. So what can we do to address the consumers? Like, how do we identify consumers, and how we need to be talking about the predators, if you will?
Well, like I said before, we've partnered with the FBI and have been doing a number of those kind of cases throughout this year, and really targeting and referred to as John stings. It's amazing how quickly, if you present yourself as a young child, how quickly a predator.
When you say young child, what age are we talking about?
It really doesn't matter. So anywhere between 8 and 18. It's amazing how quickly you will be approached online and how quickly that turns into a sexual conversation. So I guess for those predators who might be listening, just realize that it when you show up to meet them, it might not be a young child. It might be a 40-year-old cop. All we can really try to do is cut down demand.
Mm-hmm. And can we talk a little bit more about demand? So why does this happen? I mean, it's kind of a naive question, but who's the psychologist in the room here?
Yeah, I mean the folks who during your sting operations you're nabbing have, I suppose that they could be all over the map, but are these individuals who've been engaged in this for a long time, or this?
Are they victims of trauma themselves, or what?
Yeah.
What?
Some are. Many of them have previous hands-on offenses where they've actively engaged in these kind of events before. Many of them are into child pornography. Whenever we search their devices and their phone, find pornography. I would say that the majority of the ones who we encounter have not just started this. They've been involved for a while. Maybe they've been caught before and maybe not. I don't know that this is a new thing for society as much as it's become more prevalent with the advent of social media, and it's created a greater access to victims. Instead of just victimizing those within your immediate circle, now you have the opportunity to victimize anyone who's on the internet.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I've heard stories from my mother back in the 1940s of scenarios with predators out there, not that much different than what we're hearing today. So truly nothing is new under the sun other than the ability or the tools that folks have available to them to exploit others, sadly.
Can we go back to, signs of exploitation? Like, how can we identify friends, family members, people in our community who are victims, and what does that look like?
Well, I think just like Lyndayle was saying, signs of grooming, signs of like your kid showing up with expensive items that there's no explanation for of how they got, running away, sudden turns in behavior, sudden turns in grades.
I mean, turns in behavior, that sounds like any high school kid.
Sure. Yeah. It's not an easy topic.
Yeah.
There's not a magic wand that I can tell you that would solve this.
Okay.
Yeah, I would agree with all that. Having excess money that they can't really explain where they got it from, or just even being very inconsistent and describing where they're at or what they've been doing. Constant runaways. So it is hard because some of these behaviors could be other things, but they could also be underlying, grooming, and somebody is like preying on them.
And so you guys are parents. How does it feel then to parent children in this environment? I mean, this is your work. And now do you look out there and that's all you see are predators and victims or survivors? What's your self-care? Like, how do you kind of maintain? I
just recognize that just because this is what I do for a living, that doesn't mean that that's every single person in Missoula. Thank goodness. It's really is a small percentage. We just see it on a more regular basis. And I just really focus on the little things with my children and really just enjoy spending time and getting to know them and just hanging out, and take care of myself by getting out in those beautiful mountains that we're looking at and just really focusing on my own health. So that's what I do.
I think cops' kids have a rough life. We see so much tragedy of all sorts on our daily basis that we tend to become very, very sensitive to that and extremely protective of the kids. So it's a tough job being a cop's kid, I think.
And as a commissioner's kid, I don't
think about it a whole lot, and probably from the standpoint that that's unlike our two guests today, who the world in which they move professionally maybe brings into stark relief the possibilities out there for harm and for tragedy. The best I can do right now, and I'm trying to do as a parent, which is always imperfect, is raising smart and savvy kids who, as I mentioned earlier, are situationally aware in any manner of different ways, including the characters and lowlifes out there who might be wanting to prey upon them. But different perspective. But I think we're all probably echoing the same concern as far as just keeping your eyes open and aware of your surroundings.
Yeah, and I don't have children, but I'm at the age now where my friends' children are starting to develop, and it causes me a little bit of anxiety, and then what can we do to raise these wholehearted, resilient kids who really respect themselves so that they can go out and about in the world and make good decisions. It's hard. But back to, because we're not going to be able to answer that, then what do you want the community to know about trafficking in Missoula County or I-90?
Well, it's real. It happens. It happens here in Missoula County. It happens not only on these child exploitation cases that we're talking about, not only on the relationship cases we're talking about, but it happens in the more traditional sense of girls being trafficked by a pimp and posted online for sale here in our community. Those are very difficult cases for us to investigate and to work because they move very rapidly and they don't stay here very long. And by the time that we figure out that we have a problem, they've moved 2 or 3 towns by then. We do have a human trafficking task force that was stood up. It was originally created probably a decade ago for that purpose. What we found back then, I was a lieutenant of detectives, was whenever we would encounter girls who were moving through and being trafficked, we would do our investigation. We would try to get them help. It takes quite a bit of time to develop the rapport and the relationship with them, with those victims and those survivors, to get them to be able to talk to us. But once we did, then we still have that person to do something with that needs a lot of care and a lot of support. So we developed the task force, partnered with the YWCA and with a variety of other organizations in the community to provide that aftercare, to provide that step back towards life.
How do people even find out about Pathways or YWCA?
That's just us trying to raise community awareness. So we have a 24-hour crisis line that is answered by an advocate literally any time of the day. And then you can come to our walk-in center if you want to speak to somebody in person, which is just Monday through Friday from noon to 4 at our Meadowlark.
Back up for a second. So crisis line, like if I'm concerned about my own situation or maybe someone else's situation, I mean, am I just kind of Googling this or help me with the process? Like
yep, so you can Google our crisis line number, or it's on our website. Our website is even set up to where you can exit out of it real quick and it'll just erase from your browser. So like you can be looking and then if you need to quickly escape, you can. Our crisis line number is also tied to a 1-800 number. So like if you don't have a phone with minutes, you can just call from anywhere. And that's really the easiest way to get into, either talk to an advocate about resources available or get into our shelter.
So one thing that, and just a little bit of a shift here that we've become acutely aware of in recent years is the impact upon Native communities as far as human trafficking, missing and murdered Indigenous women in particular. How have you found that to be playing out in the work that you do here locally?
Again, so I'm just looking at it through the lens of the Pathways program. So we do serve a very large Native population that comes through our shelter. And within that population, a lot do identify as like sex trafficking as part of their victimization. So what we're doing is like we're just reacting to a crime that's already been committed, and then trying to help them put the pieces back together.
I mean, is there concerted effort to collaborate or partnership with the tribes? Are there kind of two different efforts happening here at the tribal level and then this community level or state level, or how's?
There are, and I can't tell you that I'm an expert on what all of that is and how that's happening. I wish our task force leader was on with us today, and he could tell you all about that. And we rely heavily on him and on the task force to make that relationship happen. It certainly is a problem with the Native community, just like it's a problem with all communities. What we see a lot are kids who are in vulnerable situations are more vulnerable to these types of events.
And vulnerable situation is poverty, or what else are you?
Yeah, poverty, lack of housing, any situation where there's not both parents in the home. There's a variety of things that can make a kid more vulnerable. But I think it's also worth noting it's not just those vulnerable kids. It's not just those stereotypical kids that we always think of who may fall victim to this. It can be anyone's kid.
Yep, that's important to remember, that a victim or survivor of trafficking looks like anyone.
Anyone.
Right.
And that's something I think we forget.
Well, thanks so much for joining us today. Any other last words that you'd like to leave with our listening audience out there?
Be safe. If you know something about human trafficking, if you know of a victim, if you know of a person you believe may be a predator, let us know.
Well, and there's a couple numbers that we've heard about one already, and folks could call 1-800-406-STOP. 7867 is what STOP stands for. Or, of course, call 911 if there's something that you suspect is going on that's illegal. And I say this again and again to folks on any issue: don't second guess yourself. There's a lot of folks who think, well, it may not be that serious, but if you suspect something that's not quite right, don't hesitate to dial 911, and there will be someone to hear you out and help you with your situation.
Yeah, thank you so much. We're so grateful for all you do to keep our community safe. So,
Yeah, thanks, Dave. Thanks,
thank
Lyndayle.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.